when you are spending money on ads, you should be thinking, what is the goal that I have at the end of the day? Because if you don't know what you're after, you're never going to be able to kind of get the right result. You're not going to have ads that are going to serve that result. And especially because with paid ads, you're going to be spending money. You want to make sure that you're getting the most bang for the buck. And the way to do that is to have a strategy.
Welcome to the Online Genius Podcast, where host and renegade-thinking beer-brewing lawyer turned online entrepreneur Bobby Klinck proves that building and protecting your online genius doesn't have to be rocket science. Bobby and his expert guests break down online marketing and the legal stuff so you can stop sweating the small stuff and get back to building your amazing business. Now, here's your host, Bobby Klinck.
Hey there, welcome to episode 97 of the Online Genius Podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Klinck, and today we're going to be talking about something that is, I think every online entrepreneur needs to know a little bit about and have a strategy for. Specifically, we're going to be talking about Facebook ads. Now, I want to be clear. I am not a Facebook ads manager. I don't teach people Facebook ads as a standalone product in any way, shape, or form. That being said, I've been running Facebook ads in my business for over 2 years now. I've worked with some top-level Facebook ads managers, and I've learned a few things. And I've taken courses, I've done that. And so I want to talk about how to run a Facebook ads strategy kind of at the base level. And what I want to talk about here is this is my view of how we should actually be doing it. And as with everything else, I'm going to talk a little bit differently than most people because I have a different approach than most people do. So we're going to talk about that. And part of it that you'll get from this and that you probably won't be surprised about if you've listened to me talk in the past is my Facebook ad strategy is very much not focused at the launch phase. That's where a lot of people put almost all of their efforts when it comes to Facebook ads. They spin them up when they're going to launch something, and then they don't perform well. And so I'm going to talk about a different approach. And if you followed me, you've heard me talk about kind of, the fans framework where, you should focus on really finding, attracting, and nurturing your fans. You probably get a sense that I would not suggest that your ad should start at the launch phase. So I'm going to talk about, in a sense, how to run Facebook ads if you are following my guidance and my general framework of trying to build your audience, build a group of really engaged fans, and then launch to them. So that's what we're talking about today. But before I get to the content, I want to talk about something briefly, and that is I want you to put a date on your calendar. I want you to put October 22nd on your calendar. And here's why. October 22nd is episode 101 of this podcast. And you probably have figured out by now, I'm a little bit different than most people. And so a lot of people do a big celebration for episode 100 of their podcast. And candidly, that was my original idea. That was what I originally had in mind. And then it hit me that doesn't make sense. My big kind of celebration episode, the episode that's going to actually be this really kind of different thing is going to be episode 101. And that's coming out on October 22nd. So I want you to put that date on your calendar because I'm going to be announcing some really cool things on that show. I'll be talking about some changes that are coming that are all for the better. I'm going to be talking about a lot of things that are going on that I think will really help you build the business of your dreams in the online space. So again, put October 22nd on your calendar. Make sure to download the episode that day, episode 101, and be ready to check it out and listen to it because there's going to be some exciting things happening on that episode. So with that, now, I want to dive into Facebook ads and how to use the Facebook ad strategy. And what I'm going to be talking about here is largely how I run my ads, but also things that I've gotten from, friends and peers in the industry who I know are succeeding with Facebook ads. And the first thing I want to talk about is that you need to have a strategy and a plan for your Facebook ads, just like everything else in your business. In other words, don't boost and pray. That's what a lot of people do. They post something on Facebook. Facebook says, hey, you could get more people to look at this. And so they say, okay, I'll boost it. When you are spending money on ads, you should be thinking, is there, what is the goal that I have at the end of the day? Because if you don't know what you're after, you're never going to be able to kind of get the right result. You're not going to have ads that are going to serve that result. And especially because with paid ads, you're going to be spending money. You want to make sure that you're getting the most bang for the buck. And the way to do that is to have a strategy, have a plan, know what the purpose of your ads are. And this is kind of micro and macro here. So at the micro level, you need to know what the purpose of your specific ad is. Like, what do I want to get out of this? What is the goal? But you also have to have a broader macro strategy of what is the overall goal of my Facebook ads generally? What am I trying to do? And that's what you need to be thinking about. And obviously, look, your macro strategy or your macro goal will generally be, I want to make more money in my business. I mean, that's kind of the overall point of doing Facebook ads is you want to get a return on your investment. But I don't want you to go that broad because you need to think about, okay, what am I trying to do? When are people going to be done with my Facebook ads? And what I'm going to suggest to you is that as a general matter, especially when you're starting out, especially if you have a limited budget, your goal with Facebook ads should be to build awareness and get people onto your email list. Okay, so that should be kind of the path you're going to take them on. And that's going to be where you're going to get them. Now, the good news is that within that goal, you're also going to be doing some other steps. So part of it is you're going to be nurturing people because they'll see your ads and get to know, like, and trust you. So there are some good things that happen outside of just, make them aware and get them on my list. But the big goal is to kind of, get in front of new people, get them to see your stuff and get them to, get on your list. So this is part of the reason why the boost and pray method doesn't work, because a lot of times people boost and what they're doing is they're showing their ads to existing people, like existing followers. And there's nothing wrong with that in certain times. But a lot of what you should be doing with Facebook ads is expanding your reach, getting new people to find you, become aware of you. So kind of doing this awareness campaign. And if you're just boosting without a strategy, you're not going to be doing that. And so that's part of what I'm saying is the purpose. And again, realistically, almost no one would tell you who does Facebook advertising a lot is going to tell you to just boost and just serve to your existing audience on a regular basis. There are times you're going to serve ads to your existing audience, but normally you're going to want to go broader. So again, my view, you should set the goal of your Facebook ads, get new people aware of me and get people who are not on my list to be on my list. And so if you can do those two things, you've got a good strategy in place. So the next thing I want to talk about, though, is that if you are going to use Facebook advertising, I want you to think of it as a monthly expense. In other words, I don't want you to say, okay, I'm going to spend $1,000 on this launch and that's it. The problem with that is you're not thinking long-term. Facebook advertising, just like any advertising or marketing, is something you should be doing every day, every month on an ongoing basis to actually build your business. If you do Facebook ads right, just like any other paid advertising, any other marketing efforts, you are investing in your business on a daily basis and it will help to grow your business. Now, obviously, you've got to do it right. If you're doing it wrong, you're throwing money away. But if you're doing it right, spending this money today is something that could lead to a sale maybe in a week, maybe in a month, maybe in 6 months. And so you need to take the long view. And I caution you on this because I think a lot of people focus on wanting to see an immediate return on investment. In other words, I spend $1 today, I get $2 within the next week. You can take that approach. But what I will tell you is that approach is much harder. It is much more challenging. There are a lot of people out there who will tell you, oh, I can get you those results. And I will tell you, a lot of them can't. Because if you don't have everything really dialed in throughout every part of your marketing, your sales funnel, etc., you're never going to get good results and an ROI immediately. So that's why I'm saying you don't want to do that. Instead, if you just wanted to say, hey, if you would normally have said, hey, I'm going to spend $5,000 on ads for this launch. I want you to say, okay, instead of that, I'm going to spend $1,000 a month for the 5 months before, or, maybe slightly less. And then for the next launch, again, the same thing. So that way you're constantly spending money. You're constantly doing it. Now, there are some advantages. First, an account, a Facebook ads account that has more history, generally, again, this is what I've heard from the experts in the industry. Now, they don't have any confirmation from Facebook that this is true, but accounts with history tend to perform better. In other words, they are not, just generally like spinning it up and then shutting it down. Those tend not to work as well. Instead, Facebook tends to like accounts that are constantly selling. Now, part of that, I think, is that the algorithm starts to figure things out for you. And so because the algorithm starts to figure things out, that makes it easier and that makes it, possible for Facebook's system to know who to show your ads to, who are most likely to respond. So that's part of the advantage. Part of it is that you should be building your business constantly, not in explosions. Now, again, during a launch, maybe you're going to do some additional ads and have some additional growth. But if you're constantly building your business by making it a monthly expense, you're taking the tortoise and the hare. You're taking the tortoise approach, the slow and steady. And every time I read that book, the tortoise still wins. Slow and steady is how to build a business, especially with ads. When you're using ads, taking a slow and steady approach will always be better than a flash in the pan trying to do a big sprint. The other piece of this is that when you're doing it constantly, you avoid the launch madness. I've talked about this in prior episodes, but trying to, get people onto your list and into a launch is very stressful. If you're trying to find people who don't yet know who you are, haven't seen anything from you, and nothing else during a launch, maybe it's to get them onto a challenge, maybe that's to get them into a webinar, maybe it's to get them to go to a video series, whatever your launch mechanism. If you're trying to get people there who don't yet know you, you are going to be in rough shape. Now, there are some people, and again, if you take the slow and steady approach and do this consistently, and do what I'm going to talk about in a bit on a particular strategy consistently over time, you can get better results during a launch of talking to theoretically cold traffic. But you need to be careful about it. And so what I'm going to tell you is you are putting yourself into a bad spot if you're going to put yourself somewhere where you have to basically, spend a bunch of money during launch madness. And the other part is, I'll just be honest with you. If you want to spend a huge budget during a launch, there are problems. Like Facebook has to kind of get to the point that the algorithm is actually finding the right people. And then often you can't scale fast enough and you don't have enough time to test things. And so you're spending a lot of money on things that don't count. So again, if you haven't done testing, if you haven't figured things out before a launch, what's going to happen is you're going to waste a ton of money trying to learn things during a launch. I've heard a lot of ads managers talk about this because the reality is, like during a launch, let's say you have like a 1 week period to get people onto a webinar, which is about normal. People will normally do 7 to 10 days is as far out as they'll run ads. Well, if you start on low budgets and you start ad sets targeting different groups at $5 a piece, the problem is you're never going to be able to scale it enough if, let's say, you want to spend $5,000 to get people into webinars. And that means that realistically what you have to do is start with bigger budgets on individual targeting. And if you don't know Facebook ads, I'm not going to talk about all the basics, but an ad set is basically saying, I want you to go show these ads to this group of people. And that's where most people are still putting their their budgets are set at that level. There's going to be a change coming at some point in the next year where you don't set it that way, but even then there are ways around that. But my point is that if you have to start at a higher budget, say $50 a day for that, and then you've got to give it a few days to see if it works, all of a sudden you've spent $150 to figure out if this group that you're targeting is even worth targeting. Whereas if you'd done it earlier, you would have that information at a much cheaper price and you would know these things and you wouldn't have to do that. So that's kind of some of the problems with trying to put it all at once. So my general advice to you, you want to spread it out over the year. Whatever amount of money you intend to spend on Facebook advertising, I would suggest, don't divide it by 12, divide it by a slightly higher number and spend that every month. And then you can ramp up a little bit during launches. But that's going to be the way you're going to get the best success. So with that, now I want to walk through kind of the general strategy, the basic strategy that most people should be using. And you can get more complicated later. You can do more advanced things later, but this is the general strategy that you should be doing. The first phase, the first piece of this is that you should be doing Facebook Live videos. Now, if you're not comfortable with lives, you can do recorded videos, but most people, again, and I don't know if this is true or not, but some people will say that lives tend to do better than recorded videos. At any event, you need videos on a regular basis. So ideally, you're doing a Facebook Live every week or something like that. And what you do then is you are going to put an ad spend behind that video to get it in front of new people. And you can do a little bit of complicated things. Some people will initially run a small ad, small amount of money showing that live to their existing audience, hoping that they will get likes, that they will get comments and things like that, because all of that helps. Like if you get people liking, commenting, etc. on your video, Facebook reads this as, ooh, this is something people like. So it helps you with getting it in front of more people. But you don't even have to do that, because your goal with these videos is to get new people to become aware of you. And so what you're going to do is you're going to set up a campaign within your ads manager. Campaign is the top level where you set the overall objective for this set of ads. And your objective here, you can choose between two. Some people use engagement, other people use video views. I tend to use video views. I found it works better for me. The point of that is you're telling Facebook, I want you to go out and get people and show this to people who are likely to watch it, because that's what you want. You're trying to get awareness. You're trying to get people to know who you are, to get a sense of who you are, and to watch the video. So when you're first starting with this and you're trying to figure out who do I show it to, there's a couple of options. One, you're going to use interest-based targeting. In other words, you're going to hopefully go to your Dream 100. Hopefully you've done that exercise. I've got a prior episode on it. You can find my Dream 100 episode where I talk about this, but you're going to find people who, like thought leaders, companies, etc., that your potential followers, your potential customers are already following, and you're going to target them. Now, a bunch of those people are not going to be targetable. You're not going to be able to pick them and tell Facebook, go find people who, follow those people, but some of them will. And you start with your Dream 100, and then if you want, you can add in other interests. Facebook will suggest people who are similar or make suggestions based upon the list you've put in there. But that's going to be your first level of doing it. You're going to want to search for people who follow other thought leaders in your space. And so we'll call that interest-based targeting. That's where you're generally going to have to start when you're first starting with ads. Over the long term, though, you're probably not going to be doing much of that. I don't do a ton of interest-based targeting at this point because, like I said, I've been advertising for 2 years. So at least for my legal stuff offers, I have other options. And your other options are to create what are called lookalike audiences. This is where you upload an existing list, or I'll talk about something else. But if you had like an email list, let's say you had 1,000 people on your email list, you upload that list to Facebook, and then you tell Facebook, I want you to create a lookalike audience. And what Facebook does is it identifies the people on your list, looks at their accounts, and then its algorithm does its magical stuff and says, okay, I'm going to go find other people who have similar characteristics to these people, and I'm going to find, then show the ad to those people. The great thing about lookalikes is, like, if you change that base audience that it's starting for, the lookalike automatically updates. Now, with your list, that's not as important, but I'm going to talk about something else that you're going to do with lookalikes in a second. But the idea is, if you've got a list of 1,000 people, you go ahead, you upload your list, create a lookalike, etc. Now, I want to talk though about as you advance through this, you're going to have more than one list. You'll have maybe your base email list. You'll have customer lists. And if you have like multiple offers, maybe you have a small dollar customers and then a big dollar customers. And you want to create lists of all of those things. And let me give you an example. On the legal stuff, as we're sitting here today, I may revamp this shortly, but as we're sitting here today, my Facebook ads go to my free privacy policy. I'm trying to get people to sign up for that free privacy policy. So I have multiple lookalikes. I have one that is all of everybody on my list. I have one, the people who've downloaded the free privacy policy. Then I've got another one, the people who buy the follow-on offer to buy the entire website pack. So these are buyers, people who paid $97 at this point to get that. And then I have a lookalike of everyone who's bought my signature legal product, my Online Genius template library. And the reason I'm doing that is, look, people who have bought my $1,000 legal product, and people, if there's a lookalike audience similar to that, those people should be more valuable to me because theoretically, they are people who are more likely to not just spend money, but make a big purchase. So I give that as an example that you need to think about where are there different ways that you can kind of segment your audience and create different lookalikes. So that's kind of the second category you're going to want to do at the beginning. And you may be saying, oh, so I'm going to send them directly to an opt-in. You can, but I want you to use that lookalike also to send traffic to your videos and get those people kind of warmed up to you. Then the final category is lookalikes that are not based upon your list, but are based upon people who've taken certain actions on Facebook. And how you're going to want to use this is you're going to want to create audiences. So again, if you don't know how to do this, I'm not going to go into all the detail about this, but you should be able to search and find how to create an audience in Facebook. You're going to want to create audiences of people who have watched 25%, 50%, 75%, and 95% of videos. Now, you can do it for single videos, but if you're going to be doing a video every week and spending money on kind of the new video each week, and they're all a related theme or fall under one big thing, you're going to want to select all of those videos. And each time you upload a new video, you need to go in and select it. But what you do is you just say, hey, I want to create audiences of the people who've watched that much of these videos. And this is an important step because we'll talk about it in the next step of the process. But you create those audiences, and then, and here's the beauty, as people watch, you want to create lookalike audiences of those people. So often what you'll do is when you're first starting, you're going to have to get your first 100 people to watch at least 25% of your video or videos, if it's multiple, before you can, start using lookalikes of that. But once you get there, you want to create a lookalike audience of the people who've watched 25% of your videos, and you want to start targeting them. And the reason you're doing this is a group that is supposed to be similar to the people who are actually watching the video. So if your goal is to get people to watch a video, a lookalike of people who've already done that would tend to be someone who get better results. So again, you start with a 25%. And then, as more than 100 people, so as more and more people do that lookalike gets better. It gets closer because Facebook has more data. So if you have 1,000 people who've watched 25% versus 100, you're going to get better kind of, matching. But what you do is kind of walk up the ladder. So you start with the 25, but then eventually you're going to get at least 100 people to have watched your 50% or watched 50%. And then you're going to create a lookalike of that. And then you're going to have eventually some people who've watched 75% and then 95%. And so you're going to kind of create lookalikes of all of those audiences, and you'll want to test them. And theoretically, you should say, "Ooh, great, I always want to use the 95%. Sometimes you don't. I'm just going to tell you, sometimes the lookalike of the 25% works best. Sometimes it's the 75%. You have to test them all and see. But once you have those lookalikes created, often, at least in my experience, I stop the interest-based targeting. So I'm no longer targeting people who follow my Dream 100. Instead, I'm targeting lookalike audiences of people who've watched a certain percentage of my videos. And that's where I tend to get the best results. And it feeds on itself, because as more and more people watch it, Facebook's algorithm gets better. The lookalike audiences get better. It is literally constantly changing who is in that lookalike based upon it's doing this calculation of people who've actually watched. So that's what you're going to want to do in your video views. And that's going to kind of build up this group of people who have followed you, who know who you are, etc. After you've done that, that's when you're going to move to what are called conversion ads. This is where you're going to tell people, hey, go download this freebie. Basically, is what I'm talking about here. This is the list building ads. And when you're starting out, especially if you have a limited budget, often what you're going to want to do is basically target your conversion ads. So target the ads asking people to go grab your freebie, to grab your downloadable, to people who have watched a portion of your videos, because those will be the people who are most likely to convert. They already know who you are, and so they're most likely to do it. Now, I want to talk about how you set this up. In this one, in the campaign level, you want to look, you don't look, there's I think it's called lead ads or something like that. Don't use that. That's about setting it up all on Facebook. It's cockamamie. Use conversion, and you've got to have a pixel. I hope you understand that and have it. If not, go to listen to someone like Rick Mulready's Art of Paid Traffic podcast is a great place to learn basics of Facebook ads. But you'll have a pixel on your website, and you'll have it set up so that Facebook can tell if someone actually goes through the process of downloading your freebie. And that's what the conversion objective is. And so you're going to want to make sure that you're using the conversion objective when you're trying to list build. And then you go down from that, you're going to target people, and you're going to have an ad. And the ad, you can try different things. You might want to use a video. You might want to use a static image. So just an image. You got to test all this. With Facebook ads, it is all about testing, because there may be things that you think, oh, I should definitely do this, and it doesn't work out. So you're going to want to test different kind of graphics, etc. And with the copy, you need to work on this. You need to work on the copy. Your copy generally needs to be longer than like a couple of sentences. It's going to be, a few different paragraphs talking about, what their problem is, what the struggle is, and how you can solve it. And you're going to set that up. And there are two options. Number one, if you have a limited budget, you target it, like I said, just to people who've watched your videos. If you have a slightly bigger budget, you're going to do that, but then you're also going to show it maybe to lookalikes of people who've already watched your video, or lookalikes of people who've already downloaded the freebie once you have enough people there. So you'll test all of that and see what works. And often I will set a budget for all of those. I have I will let it run even if it's not, having fantastic results on one, just because I want it to maybe see if it'll turn around and find something. But you're going to test it. If one of them just doesn't work, you're not going to keep doing that. But you do that. And with this process, you should be able to get leads into your funnel, into your system, into your business on a daily basis. That's your goal, because you need to be growing your list every single day, every single week, every single month. And that's where you start to really get some great results. So this is kind of the key. And what I want to say is, if you have a limited budget, and my approach right now, that's where I will have spent, I would say 85 to 90% of my Facebook ads budget has already been spent in these two steps in any given year. The last step that we're going to talk about, the last phase of Facebook advertising, is the launch phase. Like I've said, trying to get cold leads in, people who don't know you during a launch, is going to be very tough. Now, there are a couple of things you can do during a launch phase. Number one, you're going to want to run ads to people who are already on your list but have not bought. And by doing that, that is a very low cost thing because, depending on the size of your list, let's say you have 5,000 people on your list. Well, you can't spend $50 a day in most periods on a list that small because you'll just be showing the ad to them 8 times a day. So you're not going to have to spend as much, but this way, when you're emailing them about a launch, but they're also seeing Facebook ads, great. They see it all. So it helps to kind of drive them to it. But you can do that. The next level of thing you can do is you could do launch ads, try to get people to sign up for a webinar, for example, or sign up for a challenge, or sign up for a video series, or sign up for a freebie that is really directly about the launch and then invites them to the webinar, the challenge, etc. But you could do that and send that to video viewers. And meaning people who have viewed, say, 50% of a video, but haven't signed up for your list. That's a warm audience. They're more likely to convert than people who've never heard of you. So that's where I'm saying, if you're doing these constant videos all the time, people may not sign up for your list, but if they've maybe seen you and watched 50% of multiple of your videos, guess what? They're more likely to know, like, and trust you. They're much more likely to sign up for your launch. Where I am in my business, I don't send launch ads to anyone beyond that. Some people will go further and send launch ads to lookalike audiences, to interest-based targeting, etc. If you're going to do that, you need to be very careful, but what you need to do is use the information you've gotten from the past, meaning what audiences are working best at other phases, and start with those. But I'm just going to tell you, it's going to be more expensive, it's going to be time consuming, and it's going to create problems for you. So my suggestion, you're going to use most of your ad budget on 2 things, and that is going to be on getting people to watch videos and then getting them to sign up for your list on a freebie. Then your launch ads targeted to people who already know you in some way, meaning they're on your list or they've at least watched some of your videos on Facebook. If you do that, you will be set for success. So that is my Facebook ad strategy that I'm using right now. And it's consistent with what I think a lot of the people who are having a lot of success, especially with smaller budgets, are doing. So give it a try. Hope you enjoy it. If you use this, you'll be growing your business on a regular basis, and that should be your goal. So that's it for this episode of the Online Genius Podcast. Again, like I said at the beginning, mark October 22nd on your calendar. That's episode 101. I'm going to have some big announcements, some big fun. So I hope you'll make sure to download that episode that day. That's it for now. I'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Online Genius Podcast. Make sure to tune in next week for more great tips, tricks, and strategies to help you build and protect your online genius.